Hi, everyone. Welcome into today's Federal Disability Retirement webinar. My name is Nick Child, and I'm the Director of Client Experience here at Harris Federal Employee Law Firm. I'm really excited about today's webinar. This is by far our most requested webinar, and it's going to be the most comprehensive look at federal disability retirement you're going to find just about anywhere. So that's exactly what our topic is today. What is federal disability retirement? And we're going to leave no stone unturned here. We're going to dive deep into all the details of this benefit. And we really want you to leave here confident and hopeful about how this benefit can impact you in your future. And to walk you through all of this, I brought the big guns in today, Bo and Brad Harris. Bo is the president here at Harris Federal Employee Law Firm, and he's been working his entire career and focused his entire career on helping federal employees. And through that, he's really grown Harris Federal into one of the premier national law firms serving federal employees. I'm so excited to have him talk to you. Also have Brad Harris here, who is our managing attorney. And Brad has been representing federal employees for over 20 years. And over his career, Brad has become one of the most respected voices in federal employee law. And throughout that, he has seen Harris Federal garner over 4,500 approvals for our clients. And I know that's something that Brad is very proud about. So really excited to have Brad here to speak with you as well. These guys are going to walk you through the ins and outs of this benefit and really give you some hope for the future, I think. So before we get started, make sure you take a second to find the comment section at the bottom right of your screen. I'm going to put a graphic up here so you can see where that is. This is a great opportunity for you to post your questions. We have some team members here that are going to be answering questions as they come in, and they're going to get to them as quickly as they can throughout the webinar. So with that, I hope you're ready to dive deep into federal disability retirement. Bo, Brad, let's go.
Thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. And thanks for being here today with us. We wanted to put together this webinar specifically about what is federal disability retirement. This is a benefit for federal employees, and we get questions about it all the time from federal employees all over the country. So this webinar, we're going to dig into kind of what the basics of this benefit are, and also what some offsets look like against this benefit too. We have a lot of good information here for you today, and we're excited for you to join us here. Speaking of join us here, I'm joined today by Brad Harris. He's the managing attorney here at Harris Federal, and my name is Bo Harris. I'm the president here. Brad, thanks for being here today.
It's a pleasure to join you, Bo, in this. It's a real honor for us to get to represent federal employees all over the nation, regardless of which is their employing agency. And it's important for us to communicate to federal employees about their legal rights. So we're going to be covering a number of things in this presentation. For example, where does this benefit come from? How much money does it pay? What are the highlights of the benefits that you get? And how long does it last? I could read this slide to you, but you can too. I just want to let you know we're going to cover a number of points, and we hope that this presentation is valuable to you and that you'll watch it again and again so that you'll remember exactly what it is that we can do for you.
That's right, Brad. Thank you. So let's dig into this. Let's first start off with understanding the benefit. Let's look at kind of the basics, where it comes from, and then we'll move into what the benefit is. But we get this question a lot. Where does this benefit come from? And the answer to that is it's already built into your federal employee retirement plan. And what I mean by that is if your FERS or SERS is built into that retirement pension plan that you already have established that you've been contributing to.
You know, a lot of employees, they know they have a human resources department. That's where they might get hired or fired or work on things about their salary. But there is a gigantic HR department for all of the federal government, regardless of the agency that you work for. Think of it that way. There's a gigantic HR department called the Office of Personnel Management. Doesn't matter if you work for the Department of Agriculture or the Post Office. That is your gigantic HR department. And they administer various benefits to all federal employees. And one of those benefits is the retirement system.
That's right. And, it's also a benefit that is not only built into your retirement system, but it's also a benefit that you have to prove. It's not a switch that you just flip on or off. It's something that you have to prove through an adjudication process, which is what we help federal employees out with every single day. So when we say adjudication process, that means that somebody's going to be deciding yes or no, whether or not you're approved or not. A lot of people confuse this and they think that their employing agency is the one that makes the decision as to whether or not they will get or not get federal disability retirement. But that's not correct. The Office of Personnel Management is the adjudication processor. They're the ones that are going to make the decision, not your employing agency.
As your legal representative in this matter, we make a claim on your behalf, and that decision is not made by your employing agency. Whether or not you are going to get your federal disability retirement is up to the Office of Personnel Management, not your supervisor where you work.
Exactly. So some of the benefit highlights that we want to look at real quick, just to kind of as a high level overview of this benefit, is what is the monthly annuity? We're going to talk about what the breakdown of that looks like. The fact that you can also work in the private sector, that's a huge highlight with this benefit specifically. That's a lot different than like a federal workers' compensation benefit might be. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more. We're also going to talk about credible years of service. A lot of people say, yeah, I've built up, a decent, amount of time here. What happens to those credible years of service that I've already earned? And do I continue to earn credible years of service while I'm on this benefit? And then also health and life insurance benefits. People are concerned about what that might look like in the future. So we're going to dig into that as well. Okay, so those are the benefit highlights. Now let's move into how much does this benefit pay. Brad, this would be a great spot for you to break this down for us.
Sure. You know what? That's what it's about. How much is the benefit? And the benefit is the first year, 60% of your high three. Thereafter, 40% of your high three, all the way until you reach the age of 62.
Exactly. One other thing, too, to note here is that it is taxable income, unfortunately. The annuity that you're going to be receiving, as Brad mentioned, is taxable. You do have the options and the ability to keep health and life insurance in place if you so choose to. That's important to a lot of people. There's also a survivor benefit component, too, that is voluntary.
You're right about that, Bo. It's almost like financial planning. There's a lot of financial planning in getting your federal disability retirement. Anticipating what's going to happen and being very knowledgeable about the benefit helps you to know what you need to do in terms of financial planning.
Exactly. So what is the high three average? A lot of people have questions about this. Some people know it, but just in case you don't, let's talk about the high three average.
All of those federal employees have a form called an SF-50. And they might contact their local HR and ask for a copy of it. But basically what we're boiling down to is the highest 36 consecutive months in their work history.
Yeah, and that's important because, the 60% and the 40% of your disability retirement annuity is based upon that, obviously. So here's a visual representation of what that looks like. You see here in the first column is 100%, which is kind of what your high three would be or what you were expected to make while you were working full-time.
A good example might be to say, what if your highest consecutive 36 months averaged out to be $100,000? That would be 100%. The next year would be 60% or 60,000. Following years would always be 40% or $40,000, all the way up to the age of 62.
That's right, Brad. 62 is an important number. That's how long the benefit lasts. It's a bridge to 62. We think of it as a security benefit to get you to that number. This benefit, whenever you get on this benefit, it's going to last and it's going to pay you all the way through age 62, which provides security, which is what we're looking for. At age 62, the benefit's going to recalculate and turn into your regular retirement at that time. So it's a security bridge from where you're at now all the way to age 62.
Sure, it's important to think of it as financial planning for you, right now. How would I like for things to look when I reach the age of 62? How will I get there? What will be the amount of money I have up to that date, and what will be the amount of money I'll have after that date? And this gets us to the next topic, Bo, which is pretty exciting. And that is, you're not limited to that 40% during those years. You're allowed to go out into the private sector.
So now we're talking about working in the private sector. And Brad's right. An occupational disability is totally different than a total disability. The word disability is confusing, and it's used in different benefits to mean different things. But in this particular benefit that we're talking about, federal disability retirement, this is occupational, meaning that we're trying to prove that you can't do your job, or you have a deficiency in the way that you perform your job, which is totally different than what other disability benefits might require. But the special thing is that you can work in the private sector, and that's really unique. We have a lot of clients that kind of move on in a different direction in their life. They pursue a different career, perhaps. That's a very special thing to see. One other thing to note here is that you actually do have a cap, though. So if you do go earn an income in the private sector, you're going to be limited to only earn up to 80% of your old position's current salary on top of your disability retirement benefits. So let's see what that looks like. Working in the private sector here, this is the same graph, but you notice that the year one, you can earn up to 80% behind that 60%. So on top of the 60%, you're going to get an additional 80% of additional potential earnings that year. And that lasts, again, all the way through the age of 62. When you're on 40% there in year 2 plus, that's the 80% on top of the 40.
I guess you might look at it like this. Your first year out, you could have 140% of what your current income is. Next year out, 120%. And that 120% would continue until the age of 62.
So this is obviously really nice for the people who can go work in the private sector, but we do have some clients who can't. So don't forget that 60% for the first year and the 40% for every other year to the age of 62, that's there for you as a security benefit in place. So this is also a really, really interesting part that almost nobody knows about. People have questions about, well, what will my retirement look like when I get to the age of 62? How much time have I had put in prior to getting approved for federal disability retirement? And then what will happen between the time that I get on the benefit all the way to the age of 62? Well, the good news for you as a federal employee is that every year that you're on this benefit is actually going to count as an earned credible year of service towards your regular retirement calculation. Now, that is really, really big news for somebody when they think about the long-term benefit. So not just between now and 62, but every year that you're on this benefit, you're increasing what the retirement will be after the age of 62.
Yes, that's right. As a matter of fact, we've got a slide here to show you that would demonstrate to you that if you already had 10 years of service in, but you went into federal disability retirement at the age of 40, you would take that 10 years of prior service and you would add to it all of the years up to the age of 62. That might, in this example, be 22 years. So you'd have 10 years from prior service, 22 years of credible years of service, even though you're not working, and end up with 32 years of service for the purposes of calculating your pension.
And that goes from 62 for the rest of your life. So that's a lifelong maximization of your actual retirement, which is a big deal for people.
Lots of important financial planning going on here for you.
Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. Let's look at maintain health and life insurance options.
Yes, and I'm glad to, because it's almost unanimously accepted as a exciting thing for federal employees to learn that they can keep their health insurance and their life insurance while they're on the federal disability retirement benefit.
And that's great because, a lot of people who are considering this benefit, or they call us about this benefit, that's a big question that they have is, what happens with my health insurance and my life insurance? And the takeaway is that you can keep it. So now that we have a baseline understanding about what the benefit is, let's talk about how you qualify for it. You're probably having questions about, do I qualify for this? So we're going to dig into that right now.
Disability retirement isn't just granted. You actually have to petition for it. You have to apply for it. You have to meet all of the requirements for it. And that's one of the things that we specialize in helping you to understand. I even need for you to understand the concept of disability because it's so misunderstood. A disability is a medical condition that inhibits an employee from continuing to complete at least one of the major functions of their current position. Very confusing the way that's stated. So let me say it a better way. It's occupational disability. It's not total disability, and it's not completely occupational disability. It has to do with deficiency in the occupation. What I mean by that is you could qualify while being able to do the work. It's just that you have a deficiency in not having that full performance or attendance or conduct due to a medical condition.
That's right, Brad. Exactly. It's important that everybody watching today understands that we're talking about the inability to perform your job, not just any job, just your job. So speaking of those medical conditions that you were just talking about, let's look at that real quick because this is different than most people might think. This is not necessarily workers' compensation, meaning that you don't have to be injured at work. Brad, can you fill us in on some of these medical conditions and how they might arise in terms of if that would disqualify you from this benefit?
As a law firm, we enjoyed the fine print. We like to look at exactly what they're saying, the qualifications are, the requirements are. And it's very surprising to find out that we're not talking about having to have been caused by work activity. This doesn't have to be a workers' compensation claim at all. It could be due to some genetic problem that you might have, diabetes issues, cancer. It could be post-traumatic stress disorder that a federal employee acquired outside of his federal employment, but worsened while he was employed with the federal government. We have helped people, federal employees just like you, all over the nation with conditions such as depression or stress disorder, even fibromyalgia. I think we did one for migraine headaches. We've helped federal employees who have medical conditions that create some form of deficiency in either their performance or their attendance or their conduct. So you see, this becomes a medical legal analysis, and that's what we do. We study the medical records you have, and we create the legal argument on your behalf.
So just to clarify this point, Brad, because this is really important and I want to make sure people get this, the qualifying medical condition doesn't have to arise during your employment. In fact, it can be a pre-existing condition that worsens during your employment there. And also, it doesn't have to be work-related at all. That's the main takeaway about your medical conditions. So some of you all might be in a situation where you're still working to some extent. Maybe you're in a modified position. Maybe your employment agency is trying to accommodate you. And we get questions about that all the time. Does that disqualify me? Does that mean that I can't get this benefit because my employment agency is trying to help me out? And that's complicated, but let's touch on that just for a minute.
I like to think of that, Bo, as good proof. It helps us to prove the case. It doesn't work against the employee in qualifying for this benefit. It actually works as proof that I get to use in winning your claim.
Yeah, and in fact, it doesn't disqualify you is the main thing. It doesn't disqualify you that your employment agency is trying to accommodate you. Remember that the criteria of accommodation is it must be a vacant position in the same agency at the same pay or grade level within the same commuting area. And if that's not hitting the mark there, you don't have to accept that job.
Sure.
So now that we understand what the benefit is and what the qualification standards are to get this benefit, let's distill this information down into one example federal employee. So here we have a guy named John. John's 47 years old. John, he has a high 3 average. It's already been calculated, so we know it's $72,000. So that's what we're going to base this benefit from. But a little bit of personal details about John. He's a letter carrier with the USPS. He's a FERS employee. He has 15 years already of credible service. He's married and has 2 children. John also has an injury. He severely injured his knee while playing recreational soccer. Now, see right there, it doesn't have to be work-related. The injury or illness doesn't have to be connected to the fact that he's a letter carrier, right? John also undergoes surgery, but is never able to return to full duty, meaning that he's less than fully successful. He has a deficiency in service. He can't do the normal job requirements of a letter carrier. So that's John. That's what John's situation looks like. Let's look at what his example retirement annuity for disability would be, Brad.
You said he was making $72,000 a year. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's his average for 3 years, 36 months. The first year, it's $43,200. That's 60%. The years remaining there until he reaches 62 would be 40%, which would be, in this example, $28,800 per year, every year until he reaches the age of 62. Now, considering what age he is, gosh, those benefits total $446,400.
So look at John's total benefit right here, down in the lower left part of the slide. His total benefit, the 15 years combined that he's on this federal disability retirement annuity, is going to add up to be $446,000. That's a significant amount of money, considering the fact that he's not working as a federal employee anymore and could also be working out in the private sector and earning additional income on top of this number.
And in addition to that, Bo, what they're going to do is they're going to pretend he has 30 years of credible years of service at the age of 62 because they count.
That's right. He had 15 years prior as a postal employee, and then he's on the benefit for 15 years. So he has a combined total 30 years credible service. So when he reaches 62, his pension is calculated with 30 years, not 15. So hopefully now you're getting a picture of how significant this benefit can be and how life-changing. I think Brad said earlier this can be a life-changing benefit to federal employees. But they also have other questions about other benefits that they might be entitled to. So some of those benefits might offset with one another. Some of them might work really well together to maximize what the strategy is. So we're going to talk about the offsets and the differences of federal workers' compensation, Social Security disability, and Veterans Administration disability. There are certain parts of each one of these benefits that can work with disability retirement, but it's really tricky, and I think it takes a lot of skill to understand how they can work together and not work together. Because ultimately, if we can find ways to put these two benefits together, or a multitude of benefits, then that's truly maximizing what you can have. So the first part of putting that together is understanding what the offsets are, how they don't work together. So Brad, can you share a little bit with us the offsets of these particular benefits?
Yes, it's important for the federal employee to be instructed by Harris Federal Law Firm in terms of how you combine or don't combine these things because they have effects on each other. For example, with workers' compensation, you can have a workers' compensation claim approved while you're receiving federal disability retirement. But remember, workers' compensation has 3 primary benefits: wage loss reimbursement, medical bill payment, and a schedule award. Well, you wouldn't be taking number 1, wage loss reimbursement, while you're taking federal disability retirement because those are exclusive of each other, mutually exclusive. But you can continue on with your workers' compensation claim to receive medical bills being paid under workers' comp for the rest of the time of the injury, and even a schedule award if there's some kind of permanent impairment to a body part. And a lot of people realize that you can't get a schedule award while you're drawing wage loss. So a lot of people will get off of workers' compensation wage loss so that they can qualify for their scheduled award. They can afford to get off of that workers' comp wage loss benefit because now they have a new source of income every month. This monthly annuity that we're talking about with federal disability retirement.
Now, let me just jump in here real quick because that's a really good point. The ability to switch from federal workers' compensation wage reimbursement to disability retirement, that's going to come up. That comes up a lot with clients and potential clients that call our firm. One other strategy is to, while you're on workers' compensation, wage loss, reimbursement benefits, or other people call it total temporary disability, but you can get your disability retirement claim approved while you're still on that benefit and receiving that benefit. And in fact, you can even put your disability retirement on hold while you continue to receive that benefit.
While you continue to receive the wage loss reimbursement benefit, and have it there ready to land on when they kick you off of workers' compensation as some form of income to protect you and your family. This is a very important strategy, financial strategy. It requires some planning. It requires people helping you, like at Harris Federal Law Firm, who understand all of these concepts. Don't get in too deep of water trying to understand this. It's very confusing. We understand that. But we're trying to give you a brief overview of how these things could work together and often do.
Okay, so for Social Security disability, that one is a little tricky too. Now, the first thing to remember is that when you're applying for federal disability retirement, you're going to also have to make an application for Social Security disability. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be approved for it, but you have to show receipt that you have applied for it because they do offset. So if you were to be approved for both benefits, they would offset. Let's look at the offset here.
Yes, of course, everybody who pays into the Social Security system is actually buying something called Social Security Disability Insurance. That's what we're talking about, SSDI. In order to qualify for that, you have to prove you can't do any work anywhere. So that's a much higher standard than federal disability retirement. But when you apply for federal disability retirement, as you said, Bo, you must also make application for Social Security disability. Why would they do that? Well, frankly, it takes some burden off of one of the agencies by what we call an offset.
So that's really complicated to hear, but the breakdown is that your federal disability retirement will be reduced by 100% of the Social Security disability benefit, but only for the first year. So after that first year, the reduction drops from 100 down to 60%. So what does that look like? Is it better to have one or the other? Well, it's actually better to have both, but not till after the first year. So now let me get into the last benefit that I was referring to, and that's Veterans Administration Disability. This one's really easy because it doesn't offset. In fact, you can receive the entirety of your federal disability retirement at the same time of your VAD disability benefit, which is great news for federal employees that are also veterans.
Now we get to what I consider the exciting part of this presentation, and that is, without sounding too much like a salesman, a lot of people ask me, what is the right time to apply for federal disability retirement? And my answer always is, right now. Right now. If you apply for it and don't get it, you can apply for it again later. You can apply for it when you're working in full duty. You can apply for it when you're in modified duty. You can apply for it when you're receiving workers' compensation benefits or when they're giving you FMLA leave. There's no reason not to apply for it. After you have it granted, you can hold it, say, wait a minute, let's turn it off until I really need it. And at that time, I'll notify you to start giving me that check.
That's exactly right. It's never too early to start applying for that benefit. But let's talk about the other end of the story, is the deadline to file. Now, this is a deadline that is really serious that we want everybody to understand.
Oh, my God. We have walked into this problem talking to federal employees all over the nation. It's a sad situation. They are not informed about this, and they miss this deadline.
That's exactly right. So you have 1 year from the date of your separation of service to get your application for disability retirement benefits in. That's a very strict 1 year deadline. That's all, just 1 year from the date of your separation of service. And if you're not careful, it can be a really sad situation.
It can be a sad situation because a lot of times people are out there drawing workers' compensation, we'll say for a year and a half, 2 years, and they think that they're still connected to the OPM with regards to this benefit, but they've actually passed the deadline. The fact that a person receiving workers' compensation benefits doesn't extend his deadline for applying for federal disability retirement, that's some awful news for some people to receive, and we don't want you to make that mistake. That's one of the reasons why we're giving this presentation today.
Yeah, we get calls from federal employees all over the country about this, and sometimes they call us too late. There's been multiple examples of people who have been on a different benefit, such as wage loss from workers' comp, and they just assume that they're not separated, but maybe they are. And if you are separated, again, that's where that 1 year deadline starts. That's that 1 year clock starts from that date of separation of service. So be sure to file within 1 year.
One of the things that lawyers like to do is we like to make sure you got the key points. What's the takeaways? So that's what this slide is about. This is very important for you to study this slide. One of the key points that you need to know is that your medical conditions don't have to be work-related for you to qualify for federal disability retirement. Another thing you need to be thinking about is the possibility of having a secure monthly income all the way to the age of 62. What are some of the other points, Bo?
Well, remember we talked about that you can work in the private sector. And again, that's an extremely unique part of this benefit. You can also continue to earn credible years of service, which will be really helpful long-term for you. You can keep your medical and life insurance. You can be approved while you're on federal workers' compensation. Remember, you can put it on hold. And then also don't delay. When is the right time to start? Probably now, probably sooner than later. But remember that you can't miss the deadline. The 1 year deadline from the date of separation. That's a deadline that you can't afford to miss. So that's the end of our webinar for today. Thank you for being here. I know that's a ton of information. There's a lot of details in there, a lot of specifics about the benefit in there. I hope that we were able to shed some light and answer some questions about this benefit. But if you still do have questions, I'll welcome you and encourage you to call our office. We're here for you every day. This is all that we do is help federal employees all over the country. We've helped more than 4,500 federal employees with this benefit get approved for this benefit. And that number continues to grow every single day. So if you have questions about it, call us. Please visit our website. We have a lot of free resources for federal employees on our website. We have more webinars, and we have more specific webinars about different topics that pertain to your benefits. But please give us a call, and hopefully we can help you. I also want to say, Brad, thanks so much for being here with us today. It's an honor doing this webinar with you, trying to help federal employees all over the country with you for almost 20 years now. It's a great honor of mine being your son sitting here with you today. So thank you.
Well, we're some fortunate people because we get to do things we are proud of doing. Most law firms, all I can tell you is I'm proud that we do the right thing for the right people. People just like you, federal employees all over this nation. I couldn't be more proud of our organization. And I would certainly hope that you'll give us a call and let us give you free information so that you'll make the right decision about your life, not just for you, but for those people that you love.
So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Nick. Nick, thanks so much for helping facilitate this for us. He's going to wrap the rest of this up for us, but thank you so much for being here with us today.
All right. Thanks, Bo and Brad. Great job, guys. Now, I know that was a ton of information, and you likely have some more questions rolling around in your head. You're processing all of this right now and wondering if this is the right benefit for you. So we're going to leave this chat open here for about 10 more minutes to answer some of those questions. But we highly, highly recommend you giving our office a call and scheduling a free consultation. That may sound like a sales pitch, But I promise you, these consultations are invaluable for you to understand your options and if disability retirement is the right option for your specific situation. So I promise you, you'll be glad you took the time to do it. We'll send out this webinar in an email after this session is finished. It'll be about an hour after we're finished here. And that way you have some time to review this webinar later on, process all this information even more, maybe think of some more questions to ask if you call in and schedule a consultation. So we do more webinars like this every few weeks. So make sure you check out the schedule on our website so you can join us next time. And make sure to share that with your friends and colleagues that can benefit from this information. There's a lot of people out there that don't know about this and don't know about this opportunity to help them in their situation. So help us get them that information. Finally, the last thing I want to say is we really understand that if you're looking at this benefit, you're in a situation that you likely never expected to be in. And we know it can be frustrating. It can be scary. You can be worried about the future and how you might have some income in the future. So our goal here is to provide you information, help you understand the benefits that you've worked so hard for, that you've paid into, and really just kind of be a light to light the path for you to find that future that you're looking for, to find some hope and some peace. So with all that being said, we're really here to serve you, and we're excited to do that. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to seeing you next time.